And on this segment, we discuss food security in the country, or a food secure nation. We're looking forward to that. One of the key pillars of the Big Four agenda, President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy plan before he gets to exit the stage in 2022. And while many would argue that, well, this has hugely been shortchanged and probably he might not be able to realize the same in totality, there's still efforts that are being put on board to make sure that we are a food secure nation. And in saying this happen, the president and the government at large is also working with other entities to make sure that this plays out, entities within the government and those ones that are without the government. And therefore, today we engage the managing director of course, that is NCPB. You must have heard of it. You probably just get to hear about it, but you have not gotten deep into understanding what role it plays in making sure that, you know, the food aspect or the food sector is well catered for in the country. What goes into, you know, making sure that this is well streamlined. Joseph M. Kimote is this managing director that joins us this morning, the guest of the day, as we expound some more on this conversation and we just get to understand where we stand as a nation and the role of NCPB, that is the National Cereals and Produce Board, in making sure that this is then realized. Good to have you, sir.
Yeah, good.
Asante sana for creating time.
Thank you very much.
Yes, my name is Linda Alela, and here we get to the discussion. Briefly, what exactly is NCPB? What does it play as a role? Because most of the Kenyans will know the existence of it, but then probably are not privy to the same.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Linda, and it's a pleasure for you to host us here this morning. National Cereals and Produce Board is a state corporation which has been in existence for the last over 40 years now.
Yes.
And the main role of NCPB is to manage pre and post harvest activities in this country. It is formulated within the context of the legal statutes, Cap 338 of the laws of this country. And I can say in a nutshell, the main role of the National Cereals and Produce Board is to ensure that the country is food secure in terms of food safety, to ensure that indeed we minimize on post-harvest losses, to ensure that indeed we also provide farm inputs to farmers and other value chain actors in a sort of affordable manner, in a manner in which is going to be reliable to enhance food security in this country. Our main role is also to ensure that we align our operations to the government policies and strategies. We are specifically talking about Vision 2030 and the Big Four agenda. The objective here is to ensure that we align our operations to the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy, which is a policy document which is guiding the way we interrelate within our operations. So in a nutshell, that is the mandate of the National Cereals and Produce Board.
All right, that's the mandate, but then there's more, I'd want to believe, that goes into the functionality of the same. So what are the key functions then that NCPB takes as, you know, of course, the duty that they conduct?
One of the key functions of the National Cereals and Produce Board is to ensure that we avail our farm inputs to all farmers and also value chain actors in a fairly affordable and also in a seamless manner, and also to ensure that we minimize on post-harvest losses through a prudent post-management harvest activities. We are talking about drying and management of grains in this country. If you look at our establishment, we have silos and also storage facilities across the country. And these facilities are geared towards ensuring that we minimize on post-harvest losses and to ensure that indeed we provide Kenyans a food secure environment. Right.
All right, and speaking of it being a state corporation, then how does it come in handy to play the role of ensuring that there is food security in the country? And importantly, how then does it work in tandem with the rest of the other entities that are also focused on the same?
Through a number of ways. Number one is to ensure that indeed we offer farm inputs to all farmers in the country and also other value chain actors. And also these may require fertilizers also, and also seeds, and also other inputs which are necessary for food production. The other important aspect to ensure that indeed we provide also storage facilities to each and every citizen who needs those facilities. We are talking about farmers, traders, and other value chain actors. It's also imperative to notice that also we are critical in ensuring that also we manage government programs. We are talking about the leaf supplies. We are talking about the e-voucher program for fertilizer distribution. Because of the wide network of the National Cereals and Produce Board, we are in all the counties apart from one county, and we have 110 depots across the country. And we have 6 regional setups So these 6 regional setups are very critical to ensure that indeed provide services to those who need those services across the country. Right.
Well, we've been hit by, crisis of food insecurity across the country a couple of times. This is an entity that has been in existence for quite a long time equally. So then how does it work in tandem with the government to make sure that there are long-term solutions to such, crisis that erupts? I mean, we still have different Kenyans today, struggling with the aspect of poverty. Forget about poverty. They lack food. And when we're looking at NCPB then, and we talk about cereals, we understand that cereals are crucial in terms of, the fact that you can get to produce them today and make sure that they are stored for years and years to come. Then that would guarantee a nation, would guarantee us as a people the aspect of food security in years and years to come. Why is it that we've not been able to create that balance where at least this then addressed a large percentage or a larger percentage of the aspect of dealing with food security?
Well, there are a number of reasons. As I've said, our main role is to ensure that we offer these services to Kenyans. And in doing so, we work very closely with government departments and also the county governments. Let me say, for example, we are working very closely with a few counties to be able to avail some of those farm inputs. We are talking about Machakos County Government and other county governments across the country. The import of this process is to ensure that indeed we avail those food products to Kenyans. Obviously, we still have budgetary constraints. We may not reach out to each and every citizen in this country. Obviously, we are working towards that. We are talking about also availing what we call post-harvest activities and also storage facilities. You realize, Linda, one of the main challenges we have in this country is post-harvest losses, whereby we have a lot of grains going bad because of poor handling activities and also lack of proper preparations. And one thing we're also doing very closely is to ensure that we avail our our services and also our facilities to those Kenyans who need those facilities so that indeed we can be food secure. One of the aspects of food security is food safety. You realize that the way food is handled and also prepared also mirrors down in terms of the way people have access to food in the country. So that is one of the key roles which we are doing, and we are working very hard to ensure that our facilities are available to provide a very food secure environment for both the national government and also for the county government.
All right. One thing you've mentioned on the aspect of budgetary, and we agree that that is one thing that bedevils lots of sectors in the country. You argue that there's so much that is being done towards addressing the same. Also, the aspect of accountability is probably one that would be of importance, and therefore, if this is streamlined to a point where the allocations are at least as per expected, how then is the aspect of accountability going to be fixed? Is the same also being worked on?
Absolutely, yes, Linda. In terms of accountability, we have done quite a lot to ensure that we are a very accountable institution. Number one, we have worked in a very robust way to mainstream of operations through a very robust automation process. That's number one. We have also gone through a lot of sensitization so that we minimize on the human interfaces. Right now at the National Cereals and Produce Board, we operate within the online platform in most of our interactions. Number two, we have also gone through a campaign to sensitize our staff and also our stakeholders on the various mechanisms we have put in place to enhance accountability and also integrity. We have worked very closely also with other governance institutions in this country. For example, the ESCC, to be able to build capacities within our systems. We have gone a step further as well, to ensure that each and everything we do is documented in terms of processes. And I'm happy to report that indeed we are working towards ISO certification. We have actually been recommended for that certification, and very soon we shall be an ISO certified 2015, ISO 9001-2015 certified institution. Okay. This means that our processes are within the purview of the world best practices, and we are aligning ourselves to be a competitive, forward-looking institution. Right.
What more of challenges are in existence, well, aside from the budgetary aspect of it?
Well, the other challenge we have at the National Cereals and Produce Board is that you realize that most of our infrastructure, which is spread across the country, was fixed in most cases 30, 40 years ago. And technology is changing all the time. And therefore, you realize that there is a need for us to improve on our aging infrastructure That is one of our top priorities. We're also looking forward to retooling our staff to be competitive, because at the end of the day, the institution has transformed from being an agent of government now to be a competitive commercial institution, which must work within the realms of a commercially competitive institution. And therefore, there's a need for us to be a performance-conscious institution, whatever we do. We also have challenges like other public institutions on encroachment. You find that our properties have been encroached, and therefore we are going through a mechanism to ensure that indeed we redeem some of these properties which have those challenges. We're also going through one or two challenges regarding the way we reposition the brands, because clearly we have an history and we have to consistently get away from our history. And that is one of the things we are trying to work very hard to ensure that we position the brand and we are seen to be an institution which is offering value and also solution givers to Kenyans. So in a nutshell, those are some of the challenges we are going through to be able to bring the institution to where it's supposed to be.
All right. I would want to equate this entity to the likes of Kenya Meat Commission, KMC, the likes of KCC, Kenya Cooperative Creameries, and all that. And over the years, there's been so much fear of how, you know, the government has managed to handle some of these crucial entities, and a majority of them have been reported to be dwindling. And, you know, conversations of maybe privatizing them have cropped up. Conversations to make it better of, you know, encouraging public-private, you know, participation have been also on the fore. Which one would you want the entity to adapt as of now? Is there any space for public-private participation, and has it worked for the entity towards, you know, attaining the aspect of food security?
Absolutely, yes. If you look at the mandate of the National Cereals and Produce Board, Linda, is an institution which is so critical in food security in this country. And for us to be able to realize that, because there are a lot of reforms taking place, as I've said, within the context of Vision 2030 and also the agricultural sector transformation strategy, is to position or to include a lot of private sector in the operations of food security in this country. And therefore, what I will take, based on your question, it is an involvement of the private sector. So that indeed there is a very strong connection between what we are doing in the public service and also in the private sector. And let me say a few things we have done. We have worked very closely with also private sector institutions, notably the East African Grain Council, very closely, to be able to bring in that kind of latitude, to bring in a food security sort of environment. We are working very closely with the millers to be able to avail our facilities to the private sector, so that indeed they can utilize the facilities to bring in the food security which we are looking for. We are working also very closely indeed with other private sector institutions, for example. We have opened our facilities for lease to the private sector institutions who may want to utilize the facilities for that purpose. For example, we have facilities in Nakuru, Maunaro, and also in Kitale, which have been in a very desolate situation for many years. And I'm happy to report that some of these places now are up and running. We have brought them forth to the private sector, who now are looking forward to leasing them. We have also a facility in Nakuru, for example, called the Cypress Beans, which has been in a dormant situation for years. I'm happy to say that indeed now we have a private sector operative who wants to convert that place to be some sort of recreational park for the people of Nakuru. And you know, Nakuru is becoming a city. So that is the kind of partnership we are pursuing to be able to bring in value to the citizens of this country.
All right, amazing.
Through the infrastructure of NCPB.
And we acknowledge that then this relation with the private sector is crucial, as much as it is crucial for the entity also to relate well with the government agencies. As you tell us more about that, also we'd love to understand at what point then do you connect, or is there a relation between NCPB and the farmer down on ground and the, you know, agricultural sector? Or, I mean, is there a connection towards making this, you know, work as expected?
Absolutely, yes. Let me start with the connection we have with the government. For example, we are within the government structure. We have a very good relationship, of course, with our parent ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives. At the National Treasury, we are always exchanging ideas on how best to collaborate. And also the county governments, because as I've said, agriculture is a devolved function. And we have a lot of relationships. And you also realize that our presence is also following the county establishments. So we have that close partnerships. As I've said, we are distributing a lot of farm inputs on behalf of the county governments.
Yeah.
Most of the county governments are also utilizing our facilities. I was in Kwale last month, and I confirmed indeed the Kwale government, for example, is using our facilities in Kwale for distribution of farm inputs to the farmers of that county. And that kind of scenario is replicated in other counties. So in terms of the relationship also, which we have with other institutions, let me say that we have memorandums of understanding, even with the University of Embu, research institution in this country, to be able to build a body of knowledge which you can utilize and offer some level of value, not just to NCPB and also to the students who are doing their studies in that university. Yeah. And we are looking at expanding ourselves to offer some level of practicum sites to students who are doing related courses in agriculture.
Well, expansion, I'd want to believe then comes with the embrace of technology. Just how much more has been done technologically for us to realize these steps?
Yes, as I've said, our strategic plan, 2020-2023 strategic plan, if you look at it in totality, it is mirroring quite a lot in science, technology, and innovation in the way we do things. We have actually gone round, we have looked for the best technologies in the various aspects of our business. Yeah. We now have aflatoxin testing labs across the country, whereby we want to ensure that indeed we check the level of toxic substances in the food products. We are working very closely with other government institutions like AFA to ensure that they utilize those services. We are also bringing on board the issue of the warehouse. We want to ensure that we look for IT platforms which are critical for warehouse management. We have refurbished or revamped our internal IT configurations in terms of the ERP. We have a very robust navigation system which is working for us to ensure that our accountabilities are indeed up to the required levels. So in terms of innovations, I can say that is something we are working very closely. We have also looked at the warehouse receipt system, whereby we want also to be key partakers. As you realize, the government of Kenya has introduced a structured grain management system through the warehouse receipt system. We have gone a step further to ensure that indeed our facilities are prepared for that big innovation in terms of the way we do things going forward. So in a nutshell, Linda, science, technology, and innovation is one of the critical parameters which we are prioritizing and which we are taking as a matter of priority in each and everything we do.
All right, and generally I'd want to look at that also as one that will be part and parcel of the strategic direction that you could be having and the vision of the entity. What more is involved in this?
Well, one of the critical visions which we have in place is to ensure that, first of all, we enhance the financial sustainability of the institution, to ensure that the institution is commercially competitive by bringing on board, of course, the other commercially viable goods and services.
As it stands right now, is there much of revenue that is being generated within the institution itself?
Yes, we can do much better. What I can say, we are self-sustaining.
All right.
We don't get funding from the government.
From the government,
and therefore we run our operations from the resources we get from our own operations. And these operations, these revenues come from farm inputs, post-harvest activities, and leasing activities.
Okay, all right, so then what more would it be, or of what more importance would it be if the government were to chip in onto this? I mean, we understand very well when the budget is being pronounced, you realize that there's so much that is channeled towards the agricultural sector, and you being under this umbrella, don't you think it would have been fair for government to allow you to, get something small at least until you get to that level of stability? If at all, then we understand that NCPB plays a crucial role, but then again also they are a point where they face challenges just because of the aspect of finances.
Absolutely, yes. You are spot on that. If you look at the institution, because we don't get exchequer funding, what we have is a bit of some debts which we are looking forward for them to be liquidated by the government so that the institution can get insufficient working capital to recapitalize its operations. So what we are looking for from the government is just an environment whereby the various debts and the various historical issues which have been there in the institution are sorted out. And I can say that indeed we have gotten a lot of positivity from the government, from the ministry, to ensure that indeed these matters are sorted out. There's a lot of discussions in that front.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Equally, other entities that would probably be doing almost the same role as what it is that NCPB plays. There's one that was being head by Honorable Noah Wekesa. I can't quite remember the name. I'll get it. And a couple of other entities. And I mean, we get to know about them mostly at a point when there's crisis. There's crisis of, you know, food insecurity. There's crisis of the fact that there are people who are dying out there because they lack food at points where there's drought in the country. And therefore, all this come in tandem towards addressing the same. How then do you work together? I know you've said that you work together in tandem with the other government agencies, but conflict of interest, are there scenarios that such would arise, and how then are they handled?
Yeah, absolutely. The government structures are very clear in terms of how issues are addressed within government. And in addition to the institution we have talked about, clearly we worked very closely with the institution. We are still working very closely with other government structures. And we have a mechanism in terms of the way we address the issues of interest.
Yeah.
So in my view, that is something which we work very closely with. And we don't have any, cross purpose with any other government institution. Right.
As we almost come to a close, in tandem, or not in tandem, sorry, I think I'm equating that to the previous question. Currently, just what more is being done or NCPB is undertaking towards ensuring that, there are these great reforms that you speak about, these great visions that you actually speak about?
Yeah, thank you very much, Linda. We are in the mood of reforms at the National Cereals and Produce Board to align to the various government expectations. And one of the key reforms is the National Food Reserve, whereby the government of Kenya has made a decision that the National Food Reserve will be managed within the context of the National Cereals and Produce Board, whereby we have sufficient restocks at any given time for strategic food reserves in the country. We are talking about the food balance sheet, whereby we have a good view on how the country is in terms of food security, and there is a proper statistical analysis on the various trends. We are talking about revamping our commercial activities through partnerships approach, and also through leveraging on our ecosystem, and also through our infrastructure across the country, to ensure that we also offer competitive leasing opportunities to the private sector. We are looking forward as well to working very closely with government, county governments, and also with the private sector to be able to position the brand and also the institution with a view to creating value for the shareholders. And the shareholders is the government of Kenya.
All right. Okay, as we close, food, research is crucial in this. Is there much that is being done in terms of research in this entity to understand the market even more, to understand the possible, outcomes of what is being done by the entity, and to equally understand how the future would appear, the face of the future, because then research would come in handy to help in making sure that, we are able to prepare for the future even better.
Absolutely. We are doing a lot of research, both internally and also externally, and also in partnership with other institutions. We have a program, for example, in Safaricom, which we are trying to launch, called the Dicky Farm, whereby we want to be able to have a good statistical knowledge on the farmers and also get to know exactly where the farmers are, with a view to having some level of relationship with them. We're also working very closely, as I've said, with universities. University of Embu, we have a very robust partnership. We have a very robust partnership with the EAGC, whereby we research on the trends in our sector. So in a nutshell, we have our own internal researchers. We have a research department in the institution, but where the research is a bit extensive, we have a very good collaborative aspects with other institutions, both in the private sector and also in the public service.
All right, Joseph Kimote, thank you so much, Managing Director, the National Cereals and Produce Board, as we discuss food security. And as we come to a close, unless there's something else you want to top up, we can loop it up or we can close it at that.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Linda, for hosting us here. And thank you so much indeed for supporting us in our reform program. We look forward to further interactions where we can convey the various initiatives we are deploying, so that we can also elicit support from all Kenyans as we continue with the various reforms we are pursuing.
There's still room for us to realize the Big Four?
Absolutely,
and food security for that matter?
Absolutely, we're on track.
We are on track.
Very much on track indeed.
Okay,
right.
But then again, as we say, is on track. It shouldn't be looked at as President Uhuru Kenyatta's project. I guess, and I hope that the next government then will pick it up, because then this is something that one would look at it as work in progress, and therefore year in, year out, or years in, years out, it is important that as a nation we look into the interest of making sure that the people are well food secured for that matter. Thank you so much for the great work that you're doing. We hope to engage you some more, like you rightfully put it, and we get to understand on the progress. Thank you so much as well for the feedback, staying with me right from the word go and up until now. I am not closing it in totality, because now it's time that we hit the gym. We soften up, we enjoy the moment, and we also look fit after this break.